What does it take to be an actual leader, to be a person of authority? Today on the Midweek Move, we're going to talk about that. Hello and welcome to the Midweek Move, podcast essentially the healing place. The podcast where we examine scriptures line by line, verse by verse, and ask ourselves, what is happening here? And today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue our conversation through the book of Mark with our series of the weekly shorts. And these are bite-sized conversations where we try to bring in different voices. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by my friend Jeremy Pelt. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, thank you.
So glad to have you. Jeremy, you're an accountant, you're a husband, a father. We joke, masters of the universe also. Various other things. I'm just really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You're a very chill individual, and that's what I like about you. like you really are. And we say this regularly on the show. The point of the show is to be a casual conversation between people. A lot of people look at the scriptures and are like, oh, we got to have all this deep theological stuff in our heads, all sort of stuff. And there's a level of study, yeah, but we can have just a normal conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
And grow and dive into things. And you've had experiences in life where you've had to do that, where you just had to have real life conversations with people. And at the same time, you do have a past, a history in ministry where you've been a person of authority. And I'm really excited about having you on the show because we're talking about authority in a very particular light today as we continue with the book of Mark. And if you guys are following along, we're in Mark chapter 10. If you haven't been following, if you haven't been part of this journey, go back and check out some of the previous stuff, obviously. Leave some comments on the YouTube channel. It helps the algorithm, but context is a big deal. And so let's dive into it. We're in Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 32. And I'm going to kind of summarize a lot of this, but Jesus' disciples are traveling along. Jesus has just made a young man feel very uncomfortable, the rich young ruler who's like, I got it all. I'm good to go. And Jesus is like, cool, get rid of everything. He's like, I feel awkward. And he walks away. And Jesus then having to explain things to his disciples about what it really takes to follow him. Again, he just explained people who follow him, they've got to give up a lot of stuff, but there's a reward at the back end of that. Now, following that conversation, picking up 32, says this, and they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them, and they were amazed, they being the disciples. And those who followed were afraid. So you have these two groups. You have just kind of the crowd, you have the disciples, and you have Jesus. The disciples, they're amazed because they're like, here's Jesus. He's this amazing authority. This guy looked like by all rights, the rich young ruler is the guy you want on the worship team. He's the one you want involved with the church because it looks like he's got together. And all of a sudden he's like, I don't know, I feel awkward. So the disciples are like, bro, I'm a fisherman. I got nothing. And you've turned away this guy for something that, he wouldn't be willing to get rid of certain things. So the disciples are amazed. The people are afraid. They're like, can we make it to happen? They're in shock. So they're walking along. Jesus then goes on to once again foretell of his upcoming death. The whole being condemned, being handed over to the chief priests, the Gentiles, being killed, all this sort of stuff. At the end of verse 34, he says, and after 3 days, he will rise again, talking about himself being risen from the dead. Now, the disciples, we'll discover later, they're a little thick-headed. They're still not catching, this is going to happen. Right? They're like, okay. But Jesus continues walking on, and we get to this conversation with James and John. Now, book of Matthew has the same discussion. It's part of that whole synoptic gospel thing. And we find that the question they asked Jesus was prompted by their mom. And the question is, teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And he says to them, what do you want? And they said to him, grant us to sit at your right hand and one at your left hand in your glory. Now, this is obviously it's a call for, we want to be men of position. We're like, oh, Jesus, when you get back, when everything's good, we want to take over. We want to be the men right there. We discovered their mama put them up to this. Yeah. Which, I love my mom, and I'm sure you love your mom, and
shout out to moms.
But they want the best for their kids, but she's pushing her sons into trying to take authority. We want to be the men, we want to be the ones who are respected, which I'm sure you see it in culture where there's a lot of people in ministry they're not in ministry to be a minister. They're in there to be men of authority. have the prestige. And that's what Jesus is looking at. And he says this, you do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, to be baptized with the baptism of which I am baptized? And they said, yeah, we're good. We got this, Jesus. And he warns them on a little bit more, walks them through some things. And then we get down here to the bottom of this portion that we're at here, verse 42. And he called them to him and said to them, you know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them, saying that those who are the Gentiles, that they're just like, yeah, I'm the big guy in charge. I'm the one who's going to be handling all you people. Verse 43, but it shall not be so among you. And he's calling out the disciples now. He goes, this is not how my kingdom works. This is not how we're going to do things as men who follow God correctly. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be a slave of all. And even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Again, this is a huge mindset. They're looking at Jesus. He's kind of walking them through a lot of stuff. They understand there is this messianic call of who Jesus is. There's still some of them in the back of their mind. They're going, he's just going to take over the government. We're going to run things. But he's warning them, the position of the Messiah is not to be just the hailing king that just sits on a throne, does nothing. But he has to carry some heavy stuff. And he's warning the disciples, men and women who are going to be in authority, you have to serve. It's not just sitting on a high ground. And like I said, you've been around for a while in church culture, and you've seen these men and women who they kind of lord it over people. I'm the man of God, right. Or whatnot. How do we work to be humble? How can we remind ourselves to be humble and not carry that mindset when we're supposed to be serving people as we lead them?
Yeah. I mean, for me, obviously, the greatest example is Jesus. And the people that I think of the most that showed that, they had two things in common, is everything was done from a heart of love. Authority with love is self-sacrificing.
Yeah.
And so you put others ahead of yourself. You think of the best. And so everything you are telling them to do or asking them to do or whatever, you're doing it with the heart of helping you become better and grow closer to God.
Right.
And then the other part, I'm a firm believer of be a doer first.
Oh, yeah.
The term servant leader. The servant is the first part.
Right.
You want people to come alongside of you and get involved in things and ministry and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Lead by example.
Right.
Be doers of the word, not just hearers.
Right.
And so some of the greatest examples that come to my mind of men in ministry that I look up to and have a deep respect for, and even in the secular world with jobs, some of my favorite bosses are those that when the time came and you had to get your hands dirty, they weren't saying hurry up and do it. They were saying, hey, let's get this done.
Right.
Give me something to do. And so that to me is, and obviously, that replicates in what Jesus lived.
Right.
Jesus lived where he loved everybody. Every time he spoke to you, even if it was a harsh word, he spoke it in love so that you would grow. And he also made the ultimate sacrifice, and he did it in such a way that people to this day still want to follow him. And so figure those are, Jesus set a pretty good example. And so seeing that replicated throughout different men that I've known and women and all that throughout ministry and jobs, those two things seem to be the common principle that just makes you want to follow those people.
Yeah, I love it. So we kind of talk about in the principle as far as ministry mindset, but there's some people that they're not going into ministry. How to live this in a practical life with like maybe their fathers or husbands, because there is an aspect of in the house culture, you're the head, you're the man of the house, and you got to take care of stuff. How do you serve? How do you live this principle out with your wife and your children?
Yeah, the responsibility is that you always have to make sure things are being done.
Right.
You know, obviously in our house that there are certain things that the kids do as far as chores. There's things, but ultimately, if the kids are sick or something like that, it's my responsibility to step up and fill in for them.
Right.
You know, and so I believe with that you know, that principle that as a head, as a place of authority, you don't shed responsibility.
Right.
You take on more responsibility, and you have to fill in the gaps when that's necessary.
Sure.
You know, and so obviously Jesus, another great example. You know, there was a sin issue, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to take care of that."
Right.
So, but yeah, that just in my own house, you know, I can't. There's no job in my household that I'm too in charge for lack of a better terms, because it is my job to lead my house and lead it in such a way that it replicates God's love for his people and his church.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage you guys at home who are listening. Again, there's a lot of stuff that goes back and forth with this conversation. And some people, they hear us talk about this stuff and we go ministry minded because Jesus is talking to people who are doing ministry, but it really is the local household too. It is the local community also. It is also your jobs. If you're in a workplace and you're in charge of a team, you're in charge of the team. Your job is to serve your team and take care of them as best you can. So this isn't just about the church itself. This spans across our whole culture.
Oh yeah.
In the household, you know, the biggest serving thing that a lot of people do is they change their child's diaper. you know, that's talk about being a servant and a slave to things. That's dirty work right there.
No, for real.
But you got to take care of your kid. When your wife is sick, you got to step up and take care of things. Take care of your bride. Take care of your kids, however you need to. Working together as one unit, obviously, but it falls on your shoulders as the husband to do certain things.
Right.
At the same time, there is wisdom. I think some people, they take this and they run so far the opposite direction that they work themselves to death. They're no longer just they take the idea of being a slave to others as way too literal, and they become a doormat. They let people walk over them when they shouldn't be doing that. There's a level of going, I'm going to pass this off to you. And when we do that, it comes from a place of going, man, I see something in you. I see that you can do this. I'm going to equip you. I'm going to empower you. And those are two things that have to go together. I think some people are like, I'm going to empower you to do this. And they just throw people out there and they go, don't die.
Yeah.
But when you actually equip people properly and then empower them, and part of that empowerment is going, I'm here. I'm here to take care of if you need me. But you got this. You know, that's something that we have to do also with people is as we serve them is empower them to take care of what they need to take care of. You don't sit back and change your child's diaper their entire life under a normal circumstance. You do empower them to take care of their own stuff, but when they need you, you're there to take care of it. I was talking with a buddy of mine. This is a funny story. We'll wait on this. And I think he actually might hear this episode later. He had a problem with this truck. Yeah, he had his dad take the truck in for him because it was his dad's truck originally, and there was a warranty on the tire. So his dad's like, well, I'll go in there. I'll take it in there. Dad took the truck in. Turns out there was more issues than they thought it was. His dad just took care of it. Now, this is a grown man. And he's like, Dad, why did you do that? And he's like, because I want to take care of you. I'm your father. And so I was talking to my friend. He's kind of frustrated. I was like, well, would you not do that for your own son?
Exactly.
And he's like, I don't like how this is going. I don't like how you made me feel about this, but it is. I mean, fathers going to take care of their kids, you know, when they need it, when we can. But there's got to be wisdom in how we do that. When you lead, when you serve, you are serving people. You are acting as, quote unquote, the slave to others. But you have to have wisdom about it. Because if all you're doing is everything for everybody all the time, you're not going to grow into what they need to be. So there's a little bit of wisdom there for you. Well, guys, I want to hear from you. How has this encouraged you? Has this challenged you? Reach out to us. Email us at mediahub@thpshreveport.com. And don't forget to leave comments on the YouTube channel. So let us know how we can pray with you, how we can legitimately help you take your next step. Until next time, have a great week.